I've seen a ton of Reddit threads recently complaining about how tough, or at the very least annoying it is, to play against McGinnis. This is after some pretty consistent nerfs over multiple patches, so it's clear there's still a decent amount of players still at a loss on how to effectively shut her down. Now I haven't really noticed this myself, but that's probably because I'm the one playing her. So as the disgusting McGinnis main I am, I feel pretty qualified to talk about how to deal with this engineer-heavy demon spawn. Here's some basic credentials to prove my McGinnis degeneracy. I'll start by going over the best general tips I have against McGinnis, then go through how to identify and play against the various types of McGinnis builds. And as always, if you like videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Move perpendicular to McGinnis as she is casting Spectral Wall. This mainly applies if you're a medium distance from McGinnis. McGinnis can recast her wall to activate it at any range, but she can't change the angle at which it's coming out. Just trying to move perpendicular to the wall cast may allow you to avoid it entirely. This advice is somewhat situational, because this obviously won't work if you're in point blank range, and if you're very far away, you're better off just escaping backwards. Of course, this also depends on your move speed. If you're a fast hero, this will work much better. Catch trooper waves before they crash at your guardians and walkers. This is a pretty general macro tip, but is very helpful against split pushers like McGinnis. McGinnis excels at taking down structures, but her strength relies on her staying in one place. In order to take down a structure, she needs to crash the trooper wave, plop down a few turrets, and get her medicinal Spectre down. If you can keep lanes shoved out, she can't one-shot your walkers so easily. You should have time to react, collapse on her, or clear the way before she reaches the walker. This brings me to my next point, which also relates to her split pushing. Match her against heroes with strong wave clear or high mobility. This can apply to lane phase too, but mainly applies to mid to late game. Especially in lower elos, McGinnis may just try to keep shoving down a side lane until they get the walker. If you can communicate to your team and send someone with great wave clear, it will be a challenge for her to progress forward and damage the walker. I'm referring to heroes like Seven and Lady Geist. Not only can they clear entire waves with a single ability, but they're great scaling heroes that benefit from extended periods of sustained farm. Putting her up against a high mobility hero can also be effective, because if a teamfight breaks out somewhere else on the map, they'll be able to react quicker than McGinnis. I'm referring to heroes like Mirage or Lash. Don't fight her in Medicinal Spectre. This mainly applies if they have Medicinal Spectre already at tier 3. When people talk about McGinnis being unkillable, they're really talking about the Medicinal Spectre. At tier 3, it passively gives 5% max health per second. This is on top of the 25 healing per second it's already doing. This healing, combined with any spirit or bullet lifesteal, makes McGinnis extremely tough to take down without CC or healing reduction. The best ways to deal with Spectre are to try to bait McGinnis to walk out of it, bait her to use it, then re-engage, or throw a damage ability on top of it and try to force her out. Abilities like Ivy Kutsu or Paradox Pulse Bomb. Focus turrets. Everyone's already pretty aware of this wisdom, but it's worth repeating. Don't ignore her turrets. If she puts one down right in front of you, just kill it. If she's going for any kind of spirit build, this will significantly nerf her damage. Turret health and the resistances were both nerfed recently, so they aren't very hard to take out anymore. Also, if a teamfight is brewing, simply don't engage where she's set up her turrets. If she's already placed 3 turrets down, she won't have any more to place for a while. This will reduce the impact her turrets can provide significantly. Now I'll go through how to identify and play against the various types of McGinnis builds. Generally speaking, there are 5 ways to build McGinnis: gun, turret, ult, hybrid, and support. I'll review how to determine what builds they're going for by checking their items and build paths, then give some tips on how to deal with each type. Turret build. Turret McGinnis will of course max turrets first. They'll pick up some 1250 spirit items like Mystic Vulnerability and Suppressor early on, and will generally be pretty spirit heavy throughout the game. Focusing McGinnis' turrets is of course priority number 1 versus turret McGinnis. Whenever you can, avoid fights where she's already set them up. Also understand that if she doesn't have turrets up, this type of McGinnis will be extremely vulnerable and won't be much of a threat. Ultimate build. Ult build is also pretty easy to identify. Of course, they'll be maxing ult first. Early game, this will look pretty similar to a turret build, the only big difference being the ability path. The ult build is probably the simplest one to play around. With this build, if McGinnis doesn't have ult up, they'll be very weak. If they don't have Unstoppable too, they're also extremely susceptible to crowd control. As most know, the ult has a minimum cast range of about 10 meters. You can attempt to get in close to avoid her ult damage, but if she's near a wall, she'll be able to use her ult on top of herself, so keep this in mind before rushing at her. Be careful when finding cover to avoid her ult. The AoE splash can hit behind cover. This is especially effective if McGinnis has built any kind of reach item. Aiming her ult is the least consistent when looking upward, so keep this in mind when planning your escape. Gun build. McGinnis is also pretty easy to identify. They'll be purchasing a few cheap spirit and vitality items early, but will spend most their souls on weapon items like active reload, fleet footwork, Tesla bullets, intensifying mag, etc. In order to counter McGinnis, you need to exploit her biggest weakness, mobility. She has very low move speed, doesn't have any movement abilities, and starts with only 2 stamina at base. And if she's already used wall, it's pretty hard for her to escape a gank. If she has a significant soul advantage, just make sure to bring numbers when ganking her. You should also be sure to build some kind of healing reduction item against McGinnis. She does a deceptively large amount of self-healing. Hybrid builds. Hybrid is probably the most common type of build for McGinnis. These builds can be identified by the variety of high-tier items in both spirit and weapon categories. Generally speaking, hybrid builds will lean towards a gun-heavy style because turrets have been significantly nerfed lately. When facing hybrid McGinnis, it's important to keep all the previous advice in mind, because she does a bit of everything. Just be sure to pay attention to what abilities they're maxing first, to inform your decision making on what abilities to play around. Support build. Support McGinnis is fairly similar to hybrid, except they'll be buying some additional utility items, like Rescue Beam and Healing Nova. Playing against support McGinnis will be pretty similar to playing against hybrid McGinnis, except they'll likely do less damage, but be a bit more annoying to kill due to their plethora of heals. Now I'll finish the video off by just giving some general miscellaneous tips against McGinnis that didn't really fit into a category. In lane, take short trades. Her minigun spin-up time and large clip size make her great in extended gun trades, but relatively weak in shorter trades. Wall peeking her with shotgun heroes like Pocket and Abrams can be very effective. Pay attention to her reload. McGinnis has a very large clip size, but her reload is very long and leaves her exposed. CCing her when she reloads can be hugely impactful because it will reset her reload timer. Just be sure to check whether she has active reload or long range, which will affect her reload time. Let me know what you think of these tips and if you have any of your own. As always, be sure to like and sub if you want to see more Deadlock content. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.